Well, hello guys! Today we're going to be ranking the most ragey characters in Castlevania 1. Well guys, I'm really looking forward to this list because Castlevania is a big part of my childhood. Just a quick disclaimer, I might butcher a few enemy names, but you'll get the gist of who I'm talking about when you see the image anyway. And we're starting with a good one here guys, the Axe Knight. Found in a few areas, mainly in level 5, the second last level, the Grim Reaper stage. He's bad enough when you're trying to attack him in regular parts of the level, but there's a really infamous area leading up to the Grim Reaper, which we call the Corridor of Hell, which you have to navigate these guys as well as Medusa heads. They throw axes periodically, either from above or down below, and they're a real pain to avoid because when you try to attack the Axe Knight, he always walks backwards. An effective sub-weapon against him is either the axe or the holy water, but getting close enough safely is very difficult. A very hard enemy to beat, especially when you've got other surrounding enemies or jumps or anything like that. Definitely one of the hardest non-bosses in the game to beat. We are going to put the Axe Knight there in A tier. He's incredibly difficult, everybody. And now we got another knight. I don't know if you call this the Dark Knight or the regular knight. Found in level 2. I think in level 2. I'm just trying to remember if he's in any other levels. Oh, I think it's a mainly level 2 enemy, the Medusa level. This knight is basically just cannon fodder. Walks back and forwards, it's about it. If you're caught in a tight space, he will come chasing after you, but he's so slow that unless you're new to the game, these guys are not even going to be any kind of problem, to be honest. I would actually put these guys in F tier, to be honest. Compared to any other Castlevania enemy, the Dark Knight there is an absolute picnic, to be honest. Oh boy, okay, we got the second last boss and henchman to Count Dracula himself. We got the Grim Reaper here, Death himself. And if you're an experienced Castlevania player, very easy to cheese with the holy water. And, you know, if you get him caught in the corner as soon as he spawns and you keep throwing holy waters at him, you're going to defeat him very easily, to be honest. I'm going to base this on, but I've also got to take into account as well people that aren't experienced with this game and might not know the little, I guess you could say, cheat to beat him with. I used to remember when I was a kid, I used to try and attack Death with boomerangs, and it'd be a very hard battle. What he does is he'll periodically spawn scythes out of thin air that will chase after you while he moves around the screen. So not only do you have to attack Death, but you have to try and also destroy his projectiles, which is incredibly tough with Simon's limited movements. I'm going to have to give a halfway score here because if you know how to exploit him in the corner of holy water, it's the easiest boss fight in the game. But if you're an inexperienced player, he's going to cause you a world of hurt. So I would put him in S tier for inexperienced players. And once you know the trick with the holy water, it's obviously F tier because he's so easy. Just trying to take both of those things into account. Gosh. I guess I'll put him in B tier. It's a hard one to rank because, as I said, once you know what you're doing, boom, he's just gone instantly. But I have to also base this list on the average player who might not be an experienced cast. So it's a really hard one to rank, that one. But we're going to put Death on B tier. It just feels right, I suppose. Next, we got the second form of Dracula. The final boss fight has got two forms. You got Count Dracula, and then you got this little demon bat thing. Pretty challenging, guys. He'll jump up and down, periodically shoot fireballs. Does a lot of damage to you, like 4 points of damage. So even with a full health bar, you can only take 3 hits, a fourth one, you're dead. I usually, when I try to beat Dracula's second form, use holy water. And then basically when he's frozen with holy water, you can keep whipping him in the head. Boomerangs are also effective as well, but will leave Simon a little bit more vulnerable. It's tricky because when he does a jump, you can run underneath him, but only when he does a really big jump. Otherwise, you're going to take a hit. It's a skill-based battle, also one that requires a little bit of luck. Once you get it figured out, it's not too bad. I'm probably looking, yeah. I'm gonna put him in the A tier. I mean, it's not godly difficulty, but it's pretty freaking hard until you figure out the patterns. And then speaking of Dracula, next we have his first form. This is really just a battle of patience, to be honest. What he'll do is he'll spawn random parts of the screen, and he'll shoot fireballs, and you have to jump over the fireballs while quickly whipping him on the head. That part's not too bad. I think the hardest part for me of this battle is when he'll randomly spawn and sometimes spawn on top of the player, which is completely unfair, and then you'll take a hit, which is just almost unavoidable. That can be really, really tough at times. You do have to get lucky on where he spawns. Apart from that, it's just pretty periodic. I'm probably going to give Dracula's first form a B rating, as long as he doesn't spawn on top of the player, as long as you're patient and you're jumping over the fireballs and whipping his head, you're probably going to be okay. Hard, but not impossible. Next we got the dragon statue. I think it's a dragon statue, ghost statue, whatever you want to call it. Basically, these are mounted in various stages. Stage 2, Stage 3. What other stages? Are they in stage? Yeah, there's a couple of them, I think, in Stage 5, the second last level as well. They'll periodically shoot fireballs, and you basically have to time your move when you're going to whip this thing, because it usually takes, I think, 6 shots with a whip to destroy, and you have to try and whip it while avoiding fireballs. It can be very, very tricky, and they usually take a lot of health off you, especially in the later levels. These things are a pain in the ass, because sometimes they're surrounded by, like, crows or Medusa heads, or other things that are really annoying, and they do a good job of complementing other enemies. Annoying, but not impossible. I'm going to put the dragon statues in a B tier. Very annoying, but you will get a hang of their fireball projectile patterns. They're pretty, what's the word? They telegraph what their moves are, you know. You pretty much know what you're going to get. Next we got these birds. These birds are not too difficult themselves, apart from in the final level when you have to avoid them while climbing staircases and the little hunchbacks and stuff. But I think they're called eagles, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, these birds in the final level can get in the way and are a real pain. Themselves, they're not so difficult. It's more about the little eagles they drop. So the birds themselves, I'm probably going to be putting in to a C grade. They're a minor inconvenience, but as an enemy themselves, they're not that bad. Next we have the mermen. You mainly see the mermen, I think, in level 1 underneath the staircase, the very beginning of the level. And they'll randomly jump out of the water and shoot fireballs at you. And they'll also be in level 4, where they're a lot more inconvenient as well. Pretty much you just have to watch out for them and try to whip them before they shoot a fireball at you. I'm going to put them in the D tier. I mean, they've made my day unpleasant once or twice, but overall, I've pretty much got the mermen covered. They're just a minor inconvenience, I think. Ooh, and next we have the 4th level henchman. Here we go. It's Frankenstein. Now, Frankenstein will periodically shoot a fireball aiming at the player, and he also has a little hunchback to help him out in the boss fight as well. If you get him caught in the corner, throwing holy water at him, you can keep whipping him at the same time as throwing holy waters, and yeah, he'll be frozen. But even then, his little hunchback will still jump around the screen if you let it and start attacking you. So even with the exploit, he's pretty tricky. I remember as a kid, before I knew the trick to beating him using crosses and stuff, I mean, I would just die so many times. And the knife as well, before I'd finally be able to beat him. Yeah, he's definitely a formidable boss. I am going, again, once you have the exploit with the holy water, not that difficult, but I'm basing this on the average player. Actually, no, if I'm going to base this on the average player, I think in some ways he's harder than death. I'm actually going to put Frankenstein in the A tier. He's a pain in the neck. Next, guys, we got the ghost enemy. They basically just float around. They don't really have any other attacks. You just whip them a couple times with a chain whip and they will die. You do have to be a little bit careful, because if you're rushing a level and they spawn near you, they can make you claustrophobic pretty quickly and give you a knockback if you're not careful. But really, apart from that, they're just cannon fodder. They're not difficult enemies, and they've never really been a... Actually, no, I'm going to put them in the F tier because I don't think I've never had a death, I think, caused by one of these ghost characters, to be honest. However, an enemy that is a big inconvenience is these little hunchbacks. You start seeing these guys from level 3, and again, they are in level 5 and level 6, and they will knock you to hell everywhere, whether it's off a staircase or like into a freaking hole or into other enemies. And yeah, they have a pattern that's really quick and that's always changing, is such that with Simon's limited movements, they're very hard to whip. Yeah, harder as the levels go on. They're an absolute pain in the neck. Oh, they can make your day hell very, very quickly. Yes, I do not like the hunchbacks. I'm going to put them in A tier. They're a very difficult enemy. Not fun at all. And now we got the enemy of all enemies that will really piss you off. These Medusa heads. They start spawning in level 2 in corridors. There's a corridor which good news is if they hit you, no big deal because there's no missing platforms. However, a little bit later in the level, they're strategically placed in places that can send you falling to your instant doom. And then you'll notice that is a pattern across many other levels in this game as well. And the further along in the game you go, they will also take more health off you. And yeah, usually you have to try to kill these things while also trying to kill an axe lord or a dragon statue or something. They're just an absolute incredible pain, and probably the biggest pain in Castlevania 1. The most epic enemy of all epic enemies. I am putting Medusa heads in the S tier for the most ultimate in rage. They will just make you so freaking angry. Next we got the mummy, or mummies I should say, the boss the bosses of the 3rd level. They will basically wander around back and forth unpredictably while throwing, I guess you could say bandages in a strategic sort of like swirly pattern. You do want to have a fair bit of health for these guys. Even using the holy water, they can be a little bit tricky to get them caught together. Yeah, it's hard to get them in the same spot to keep attacking them because I think the battle starts with them on opposite sides. So it's a very tricky boss battle. Whether you're an expert player or a novice, I mean, you can come undone in a bad day against the mummies. They are a little bit of a pain. Look, you know what? I don't think they're as hard to beat as Death or Dracula, of course. However, they are a big inconvenience. And I'm going to put them in C tier. This is a very, very, very high C tier. Like, you could easily put it in B tier, but I don't think it deserves to be as high as Dracula or Death. But, a little special mention. They punch above their weight, those old mummies. Next, we got these Panthers. You don't really see them much in Castlevania 1. I think just in the first level, they're a minor inconvenience. I'm not going to lie, they are kind of hard to hit. They sort of leap off platforms, staircases, and then come charging at you. Usually you just have to quickly turn around, duck, and whip them. I'm not going to lie, it can be tricky, but at the same time, they don't take a whole lot of health off you, so they're a very minor inconvenience, and they never really cause any death or anything. So with that in mind, minor inconvenience, we're going to put that in D tier. And the next we have the first boss of the first level here, guys. We have the Vampire Bat. And if you don't have the right sub-weapon, he's going to be a bit of a pain in the neck to beat. But usually it's pretty easy to get axes, and you just throw them up in an arc, and you'll knock this sumbitch out pretty quickly. Very easy as long as you got the right sub-weapon. And once you have some experience, as long as you got the full whip, you should be able to avoid... Oh, look, I'm not going to lie. It has some tricky attacks if you got the wrong sub-weapon. If you don't have the axe, he'll dive at you, charging you periodically. And I think throw a fireball too. I'm gonna give it a D tier, but a high D tier. I think the biggest thing is, even though it's certainly a tricky type of enemy, that won't take a whole lot of health off you. So very, very forgiving boss. And next we have, what do we got next? Actually, we got Medusa next. Now, Medusa's not just a little henchman. Medusa's also a main boss. who's an absolute picnic compared to the Medusa heads that fly around periodically in other levels. So this Medusa here, doesn't really matter what sub-weapon you're using, whether it's crosses, knives, holy water. What she'll do is she'll spawn, occasionally charge at the player, and also maybe unleash some snakes on you, which will walk across the ground and go charging towards you, kind of like homing missiles. Look, she's not difficult. As long as you've got a lot of health and you keep attacking or using sub-weapons, she's going to go down pretty easy. Medusa's just a minor inconvenience. I'm going to put Medusa in D tier as well. Oh, next we got the crows. The crows are mainly in level 3. I'm trying to remember off the top of my head if they're in some other levels. Possibly, but I only remember the crows in level 3. The biggest pain about the crows is sometimes they can knock you into a missing platform and send you falling to your doom. But most of the time, the biggest issue with the crows is they'll just take so much health off you. They'll go in unpredictable patterns. And with Simon's limited attack range, it's very, very hard to line yourself up with a crow and attack them. They're a big inconvenience. Yeah, big inconvenience. Are they as a big inconvenience as a dragon statue? They are, but you don't see them as often. So with that being said, I'm probably going to have to put them in sort of middle of the road in the rage tier. They don't, I mean, they're annoying, but you don't encounter them enough for them to be so memorable, you know what I mean? Next, we got these blood skeletons here. Underrated annoying. Basically what happens is you'll kill them, and then they'll periodically respawn. And they're not so hard. They're very, very slow. You can whip them, and you've got a certain amount of time to maneuver around them before they respawn. Don't sound so hard on the surface, but the problem is they're usually put in strategic locations, which are very inconvenient to get around. And, yeah, look, they're annoying. I mean, you're probably not going to die most of the time by one, but they'll probably play the assist John Stockton card, if that makes sense. Look, they're an inconvenience. I'm going to put them in C. There you go. We're going to put the blood skeletons in the C category. Next, we got Simon Belmont. Yes, we're going to rate the main character today, and he's a pain. He never jumps in the angle you want. He never whips in the angle you want. And when there's hard enemies around, he never seems to do what the hell you tell him to do. He's a very annoying character to use in Castlevania 1. He's going to go in S tier for rage. I don't just rage at the enemies, guys. I rage at the main character as well. And Simon Belmont is a big inconvenience, my friend. And speaking of inconveniences, we now have, basically this is another type of dragon statue. The first one is a stationary one. This time, this is kind of like a chain dragon statue. It will be in certain parts of the game. I mainly remember seeing these in level 4 towards the end. I'm trying to remember if I've seen them anywhere else. You'll have to remind me anyway. But in level 4, they're a real pain, because you want to go to Frankenstein with full health, or Frankenstein's monster with full health. But these things will be hanging on walls beforehand, just outside the corridor, or in the main corridor leading up to him. And what they'll do is they'll swirl up and down, periodically shoot a very quick fireball. And even with sub-weapons or the whip, it's hard to attack the creature and also avoid the fireball at the same time, or even hit the creature in the fireball at the same time. Really, really tricky enemy, a big inconvenience, especially towards the end of such a hard level when you need a lot of health. Very memorable, and also as part of the main Castlevania demo screen in the game as well. So yeah, I'm going to put the Dragon Chain statues, or the Dragon Chain monster I should say, in B tier. And next we got bats. We got two types of bats here, guys, so I'm just going to rank them together. I don't really know the difference, to be honest. But yes, bats. Bats are a pain. You see these from level 1 and you see them across the whole game. They'll just randomly spawn and fly across the screen. And never a big deal, but again, they might complement other enemies, or just happen to spawn at the worst possible time. I know in level 4, when you're in the catacombs at the beginning of the level, they'll usually spawn just as you're trying to jump on a platform, and they'll knock you into a hole into your doom. So they can be quite the inconvenience. Yeah, probably about the same level of inconvenience as a crow, maybe even a little bit more. You know what? I'm actually going to put them as a massive inconvenience because bats in Castlevania games are quite common. And they started off, you know, as being pretty much cannon fodder. But the further in a Castlevania game you go, they just... Oh gosh, yeah, I'm just thinking of it now. They become incredibly inconvenient. I'm going to put bats in B tier. Definitely underrated. Now this time we got regular skeletons. Yeah, these regular skeletons are a right pain, actually, because they'll throw bones at the player in arcs, and they're usually, again, strategically placed in stairwells or near stairwells that can basically definitely take health off you and make things very hard to avoid, because they'll also walk backwards when they're throwing their bones, so it's hard to get on the offensive with them. Definitely. I think axes are pretty much the only effective way of defeating these things easily. They can also strategically be placed into missing platforms and send you falling to your doom as well. Yeah, skeletons are a right pain. I'm actually going to put skeletons... oh, no, I think I'll put them on a C tier, but a very, very high C tier... yeah, with the crows or the vultures, whatever you want to call them. They're certainly an up-of-the-road inconvenience. They're not fun. Oh, guys, we got zombies now. Next, we have zombies. And they're just cannon fodder right at the start. However, sometimes they'll come charging at you in bunches of threes. And if you're not careful, I mean, you can take a hit or two. But generally speaking, as long as you're careful and you're just constantly whipping them, I mean, they're not going to really cause you too much inconvenience. I mean, they're pretty forgiving in the amount of damage they do to you, because you're not going to take too much damage from them. Are they cannon fodder? I guess I have to put them in the D tier. I didn't realize I'd probably rate them higher than the Ghost and the regular Knight. But the thing is, if they're in groups of 3, right at the beginning, especially for a new player, they can probably be a little bit tricky to navigate. But again, they don't do too much damage, and they're only a very minor inconvenience. But I'm going to put the zombies in D tier. And guys, this last one here, I don't remember the difference between both bats. If you do, by all means, please let me know. But I just thought they were both one of the same. So I'm just going to rank them both together. But there it is, guys. There's my Castlevania 1 tier list from characters that are most ragey to least ragey. Let me know if you agree with my thoughts in the comment. Leave your own as well. And we will see you in the next video. Take care, everybody.